protecting our community is worth a shot. Vaccines can help protect you, your family, and our community. Stop by James Drugstore today.
And welcome back to the Livingston Parish News Weekly Show, a podcast brought to you by the Livingston Parish News. My name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news, and today we are joined by the ever-gallant director of Gravity Drainage District 1, and we're going to let him introduce himself real quick. So good morning, sir. Thanks for being here.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. My name is Wesley Kennebrew. I am the Gravity Drainage District Manager of District 1. Gravity Drainage District 1.
No, that's quite all right. And, of course, District 1 encompasses most of the Grays Creek watershed, as well as parts of the Amite River. It's a huge district, kind of the, I guess you could say, west central and southwest portions of Livingston Parish.
Our district is 45% of the parish.
Oh, God. That's quite a bit. So you got your work cut out for you. Y'all's headquarters is right over there on Highway 190/Florida Boulevard by the roundabout.
Right at the roundabout.
A lovely place. I'm sure a lot of people here in Livingston Parish love it. Right across from the library. And, of course, y'all have a variety of tasks. Y'all have everything from waterway maintenance all the way up to major projects where you're seeking grant funding and that kind of thing to implement new, I guess you can say, or improve drainage.
Absolutely.
So first and foremost, I want to ask you about it was another kind of wet summer late in the summer. Obviously, early summer it was a little drier than we're used to, but hasn't been as many hot spots lately as we're used to seeing, especially inside the city limits of Denim. Of course, I do want to bring up, y'all have a joint venture agreement with Denim.
Absolutely.
Because Denim is right in the middle of the Grays Creek watershed as well as the Amite, so it made sense. So tell us a little bit about what Gravity One has done to work with City of Denim and surrounding areas to try to address these problems sort of as they come up.
Well, with the City of Denim Springs and us, and also with the parish, we have three different classes of ditches, which is road ditches, then you have subdivisions, and you have off-road. We are off-road ditches. Road ditches belong to the parish, state, or city, depending on whose area. But it's getting in with the city, opening up these channels. We got a lot of channels that we'll find today. I mean, there's ditches out there I don't even know about, and people call me and that we show up and find them. But it's getting my guys. We set up where we broke it down to 5 sections in our district. I got 5, 2 up north, 1 in the city, well, half the city, and then 2 down south. And we have crews that just try to make rounds each. We try to do at least 2 to 3 rounds a season. Keeping the grass cut, removing any kind of trees, debris, jam ups, and with the rain coming in, it does make it difficult because we're in such a rural area where it's not wooded area, so we can't just go and rip up, tear up property, so it takes a while. It has to dry up for us to be able to get in there to do any mechanical cleaning.
Sure. And that's a good point. We're going to be talking about that in a little bit because after Ida, quite a few channels experiencing some backup. I know that y'all put out some bids for some extra help. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But I do want to come back to something you said that was interesting. Obviously, y'all have tiers of waterway that you deal with. Right. Your tier, I guess you could say you're mostly dedicated to is the large-scale one.
Yes.
What's interesting is that even inside the city limits of Denim Springs, there are several places where there are canals that are large enough for you guys to deal with them, correct? Yeah. I want to talk about a specific one real quick, just kind of interesting, is the Long Slash branch. That's something y'all did recently, and what people don't understand is it actually almost bisects the entire city.
Yes.
From Amite all the way almost over to the eastern border of the town or the city. Excuse me. Tell us a little bit about because what you said was very I know a lot of that. A lot of the Long Slash branch is on residential property, so y'all had to deal with that, and you had to deal with rain. And you had to deal with the fact that a lot of it's underground in some places. So, as something that is both inside the city limits, in residential places, also underground, how do you handle a project like that?
We try to start from the top to the bottom, which Long Slash does split about middle of College. So we started on the eastern side of the city where it drains from Grays Creek to about the middle of College. And like I said, going underground, it goes by the railroad. We have to have permission to be on the railroad property. Then when it comes in years ago, all the houses being built, the people being developed, fences going up, trees growing, it's hard to get to. So we have to go in and get permission by the landowners, unless there's servitude. If they got servitude, then we're able to go to work. But it's still a fact that we don't have enough room to dig and just lay the dirt. We have to haul off. And we can only do so much section for it being so wet. We'll let it drain a while, that hardens up, and we keep on going in. But then the other portion going toward the Amite River crosses by the Denham Springs Elementary on the Range Avenue. Then it's got 3 crossings on 3rd Street and River Road, which is our engineering firm has done studies on it that is going to have to be improved. There are going to have to be large. The pipes are going to have to be bigger, and so it's a process which is going to take a while to get it done. And with the money wise, we're looking for grants as far as to get it done. So,
sure. And before we get into the grant portion, isn't that interesting that the very thing you're looking to protect against, i.e., rain, is the very thing that can also delay you as well?
Exactly. Slows us down a lot.
So before we get into those grants and talking about those kinds of things, do want to talk about maintenance real quick. Especially during the summer, y'all even hire extra, they're called seasonal workers, correct?
Seasonal.
And y'all hire them to basically go out and cut the grass.
Yes.
But that's more important than people would know. How much channel do they usually clear per year? And as you say, usually during the spring and summer, you try to get to them 3 times, correct?
Right. We have over 102 miles of channel that we maintain and we deal with. As far as weeding, the guys that go out and weed eat these things, I mean, it's like weed eating your yard. We say it's like that on crack because it's that much bigger.
Sure.
And my guys, I say, one area would be Florida Boulevard to Range Avenue up to Cockram over to Eaton Church Road. And, you look at it, it's not that big of an area, but with the amount of canals in there and the guys are cutting this by hand weeding. We got some ditches we got right of ways we can boom mow. Majority of them they weed eat. They can knock out 2 or 3 ditches a day, or it take 2 weeks to knock out 1 ditch, depending on the size and the distance. But to do a round, and doing it smaller like this, we're hoping to do 3 or 4 rounds. Of course, the rain slowed us down because before we had a crew down south, a crew up north, and a crew in the city. And if we made 2 rounds a year, we were happy. We tried for 3. But, it's not, we're not able to cut it every week, and a lot of people ask, you ain't cut my ditch this week. We have 52,000 residents that we're dealing with around here. And I said 45% of the ditches, we got 45% of the population in Livingston Parish. 18% of it is our drainage, but it's just hands-on, and when the rain comes up and the water, our biggest thing is the water comes up. When it goes down, we focus on going to clean out culverts and bridges. Once we get that done, then we go back to our maintenance as far as cutting grass.
And see, that's good. I mean, that's a detailed sort of maintenance plan that you have. And I want to reiterate that it is very interesting that the very thing you're trying to combat, which is rainwater, is also the very thing that can slow you down.
Yes.
And it is interesting, and it's important for people to know. If you're unsure, a servitude is usually a strip of land next to a public utility or somewhere where utilities might be that would allow people to go work on it. Right. It's very fascinating to hear that a lot of the areas that y'all work on, you don't have one.
We do not.
So that obviously that'll slow people down. That's why you have to do a lot of that by hand. So let's talk a little bit about, we're going to get to grants in a minute, but I want to talk about Ida because that's one of the projects you have going on right now. Obviously Hurricane Ida came through, blew over a lot of power poles, but also a lot of trees.
Yes.
And as you mentioned, a lot of the drainage area is in rural areas. It's surrounded by trees. They ended up in those waterways. So you put out are looking for bids to get help.
Yes.
To get those cleaned out. Tell us a little bit about that process.
We have 6 major canals that deal with Beaver Creek, Colton Creek, Felders, Millers. Grays Creek we do have the equipment. We're working on Grays Creek and Dixon Creek. Those large canals, or for my guys to go through and actually do these canals would take us weeks on end. So we got a bid going out that came out in the newspaper this past Thursday for contract help. And we also have a bid going out for monitoring service. So they can go down these canals because a lot of that trees, depending on size, has to be hauled off. We don't have the equipment to do that. We could cut it up and let it float or push it out in the woods, but it has to be hauled off. So we are looking for bids for contractors to come help get that to where my guys can stay in the neighborhoods and the ditches that we maintain by hand all year, that we can continue to focus on those.
Gotcha. And how long do you think it'll take? I mean, obviously this is rain dependent, as everything y'all do is. But about how long do you think this will take?
They estimated about 10,000 cubic feet of debris out there, and that's just estimate because we got in some places where it could be more. With these guys, back in Gustav, the parish had did this, and it took them about 3 or 4 weeks, and they was able to get these larger canals clean. So it should, a month. I think a month if we can get them in here, depending on how many. If we get 1 or 2, if we get 1, you're probably looking about 2 or 3 months, and then for it to be complete.
How did y'all find all that? I mean, was it because the water started backing up, or did you grab the drone and start?
We do drone flying. We when we came back after the hurricane and everybody was safe and able to come to work, which was about 2 days, we went out and started walking. We got guys. I mean, we know there's places we can go in and check canals. We look at the top, look at the bottom. Our number one thing is when it does rain, you look at the water. If the water's low down south and it's supposed to be higher like it is up north, we know we got a problem. We have water level gauges that we installed a few years back that shows the amount of rain that comes, the inches, intensity, and then it also has a gauge on it that shows water come up and water drop. And normally that gauge will show the water come up and the next day it's going down. Well, we on these gauges here, they actually went up and they stayed up for 2 or 3 days. So we know we got some blockages between this point and that point. But flying the drone and just having my crews go walk these canals, taking pictures, getting documentation showing that this is what happened.
Sure. And from that point, I'm guessing, these projects get put together because you bring that documentation back and you guys as administration have to determine, can we do this or can we not?
Absolutely. I got board members I brought the information to and just said, we need help. And they was like, on board, let's go. Let's do what we got to do.
Gotcha. Now, one thing I do want to bring up before we get into the grant portion and talking about some future projects, like you said, long/branch there from about Range Avenue out, needs bigger pipes and things like that. The Bass Pro bonds have been paid off officially as of the beginning of October. Gravity One is one entity which gave up a small portion of their sales tax to help pay for that.
Yes.
You will be receiving extra money.
Right.
One of the things the mayor, City of Denim Springs, sat down with us Friday and discussed some of these things. His idea was to try to take some of that money and focus on grants and focus on trying to stretch that dollar as far as possible.
Right.
Have you guys, as an administration of Gravity One and as a board of Gravity One, have y'all had any discussions on that?
Yeah, absolutely. We bought a trailer 2 years ago. We bought a camera trailer where we can run the camera trailer through these culverts because we are taking over, like in subdivisions, culverts that run through. And in the past, somebody would have a hole in the yard. We go dig it up, find out the hole's 20 feet down. Now we have this culvert, the culvert camera. We run it down, and it shows us exactly where the spot is. Well, as we're doing this, we went ahead and started filming all our culverts to see from worst to best. And we're making records on that and we talked about my engineers and all that and giving the board whenever the Bass Pro pays off, instead of just taking that money and throwing it, we can use some of that money there to go replace these culverts because we know we're going to need to, and it's going to be some high dollars to do that. So this would be something that we could allocate that money toward to get a lot of these culverts because a lot of them's not draining because they're collapsed or, whatever it is. So that's part of it. And then our board has definitely got some big ideas is because we do have a lot of watershed studies that Quality has been doing for us that we're really fixing to get started on.
And Quality Engineering is the engineering firm that y'all are contracted with.
Yes, sir.
So let's get into that. I mean, a lot of where these grant pursuits come from is through Quality. Excuse me. You already talked about, they have looked at long/branch. They're saying those pipes need to be bigger. They've done a few things in the past. We have recorded most of those. What are some of the things you're looking forward to in the future? Obviously, you just talked about a pretty large-scale culvert replacement plan.
Right.
What else do y'all have?
We have what we call the Clinton Allen Watershed, which is up north from about Arnold Road south. We also did a Beaver Creek watershed. We've also done a watershed over Felder's Canal and Wax Canal, like Plantation Estates area, Harris Road, and all that is a big area that they're doing a study on to see how much water's going, where it's going, and where we can do to improve. And the new model that Quality had pulled out a couple years back is they can go in and they can show that this area's got a 24-inch culvert. What if we put a 48 and it shows what the watershed to a 25 or 50-year storm? And it's just, then that's where we're making our big plans. We do know Plantation Estates, Harris Road, Plantation Lakes, Forage Club Road. That's going to be a big one. Long/, we did that. That one's done. It's just now a process to go ahead and move it in with the new school and all that being built. We want to make sure, because we've maintained for years, and there's always been a maintenance company. But now Gravity Drainage, we're moving up to where we want to be proactive, and we want to see the problem before it gets here, so we can go ahead and get it opened up. And that's where Quality and our board have really worked together, has made this. It's gotten me excited because we're gonna move this up with the phone calls that the public give us, the pictures that public takes. We know, okay, this is areas we got to work. So we have numerous from the north to the city down south. We're working all areas.
Sure, and that's interesting. One of the things y'all do have to look at is development, and you brought up two areas that are important. and I know we've talked a lot about the city of Denim, and y'all cover a lot more. Y'all are kind of like the Denim Springs School District is almost it is almost coincides, but I do want to say it's interesting because one of the reasons I guess you would need to look at the Long/Branch is they brought a lot of dirt in for that new school right there at Denim Elementary, and let's talk about that because I want to bring that conversation forward to talk about another hot spot you just discussed. But when you're talking about that area, it things are changing constantly here. There's a lot of new development. That was a lot of dirt. That's a big building. It's actually built on the ground. It's not like Southside, which is going to be elevated.
Right.
So what were y'all's internal discussions in trying to deal with that? I mean, is that one of the big reasons why y'all had to look at Long/Branch? And is that going to be one of the big reasons why it's like we have to address this pipe issue?
It's been an issue for a while, but yes, that did amp it up. That brought it whenever we saw that the dirt was coming in and moving in. And of course, they did their little study. School board had, whoever the people they dealt with did their study, but we in turn went and did our own, because of the homeowners that live there. And so, yeah, that's definitely a pusher. And anytime a new subdivision comes in, we get the plans for it. They send us the plans. Our engineers go over it and they do the question. They're big. What they look at is drainage, watershed. Will it handle the water that it's getting? Will it not? And they come back with their decisions, and it has to be fixed before, because they got the as-built, which is amazing that they come out with, because when we see it before, they could change something without anybody knowing. Now, you see it on plans, they approve it, that's the way it's going to have to be built, because that's our number one thing, is making sure that everybody below and above and where the subdivision is going to be built is going to be protected.
Sure. So let's talk a little bit about, let's get outside of the city limits of Denim Springs for a minute. You brought up an area that it constantly sees complaints, which is, the 4-H club, Harris Road, a lot of those areas down south, which is technically where a lot of these watersheds kind of come together. Obviously there's a lot of culverts down there, a lot of interesting things going on. What are some of the things y'all are looking for to try to fix the flow of water through that area? Because there's been a ton of new development through areas that, for a large part, probably flooded a lot. Nobody knew because they were mostly wooded.
That's it. It's Grays Creek. Grays Creek is 70% of Denim Springs is drained. And we've had large studies. We have a big pontoon hoe that runs down Grays Creek, but we are working on a plan. We're working with the homeowners down there to widen Grays Creek, to deepen Grays Creek, to allow more water to get down. But you got to be careful and not dump too much water on the people below them. So at the same time, we're watching downstream, we're watching middle stream and upstream. But we have one big one. There's Highway 1033 and Civic Road will be bridged. The bridges the area's got to be widened. The bridges have got to be raised, and that's something that we've worked with DOTD on. And but that's one of our biggest major jobs that we are looking to get done, is opening Grays Creek up to get this water out and have a place for it to go. Retention ponds, we're looking for properties where we can store, because right now we have nowhere to put water. And that's the magic of it all, is trying to find out all this water we're getting, and I've told people for years, I've been here 20 years. And 20 years ago, when it rained 2 or 3 inches, the water barely came out the channels. Now, or if it did come out the channels, you didn't notice it because it went off in these woods. And well, now with the development and all that, when it's coming out in them subdivisions, or it's pushing it to the next subdivision, and that's what we want to try and stop. We want to get away from. So, my end of the day is I want people to go home and relax and not worry about it when it rains. I still worry when it rains. 2016 put a big hamper on us, with the flood, the anxiety, and I still get phone calls, late at night, Mr. Wesley, is the rain going to be okay? And so, but that's what we want to do. We want to ensure that, the water's going to go where it's supposed to go and not up into people's houses and stuff.
Sure, that's not where you want it to be.
No,
property damage is no good. And it's interesting. You've been here for 20 years, since right about 2000, 2001. Right. Population growth almost 3 times.
Yes.
So the landscape has changed quite literally. Development has changed the landscape, and I want to connect 2 dots. You had talked about 25 and 50-year storms. You just talked about maybe a 2 to 3 inch rain. Define 25 to 50-year storm.
Now you're gonna give me a lot to you, because that's an engineering term, but I do know it's the spread. Let's say a 25-year storm. We'll just use Grays Creek. 25-year storm, Grays Creek could fill up, with a 5 or 10 inch rain. I'm not exactly sure how they calculate that, but it shows where the water spread is, how far it goes out. To where a 50-year storm, it'll go out even more feet, and that's, and most of your watershed or your studies only require a 25, what they call a 25-year storm. So 50-year storm, 100-year storm, 100-year storm would be, I don't know if it'd be a 100-year or 1,000-year would compare to the flood. You know, but a 25 is pretty much what we get all the time. You know, 25-year storm is when the rain comes in 2 inches drop or less, you know. But when you get to 50-year storms, when you're looking at 3 to 5 inches, I believe, and my engineer might call me when he sees this and say, hey, you need to change that. But I'm not really too much on those numbers.
Well, I believe, as I understood it, when you're describing a storm by years, it is the amount of rain that falls compared to the time in which it falls.
Yes.
So if it's 6 to 8 inches over a 2-hour period, that's a 100-year storm.
Yes.
You know, so there's a lot of, it's almost a 3-dimensional model.
That is.
For how this stuff works, and it's complicated.
Yeah.
You know, and one of the things that we've come to realize, especially with new development, you know, is probably prior to, say, post-Katrina, so prior to 2005 and 6, you know, what we had in terms of drainage laterals was enough.
Right.
It's not anymore. At least, you know, with projects like you're talking about, it could be, if we can improve that. But so anyway, the big thing that I also want to bring forward is that you've already discussed it. Public making phone calls, telling you we got a problem here, sending you pictures, that kind of thing. You guys encourage that.
Absolutely.
You have a very much have a relationship with your constituents. So, can you give us a phone number, an email, you know, where people can send these pictures or try to get in touch with y'all?
Absolutely. Our phone number at the office is 225-664-5827. We have a website, which is www.lpgdd1.net. You can they use that for problems or areas they can get in touch with us. And my email address, I mean, you can send me pictures all day long, is Wesley, Wesley @lpgdd1.net. You know, and that's great. I mean, call the office, and that's the best thing to do is call the office, get with the secretary. She will write a report up and email us, and we come see you. But if you can take pictures and then we get there, we'll swap pictures, you know, because we can't be everywhere. You know what happens around your house. Show me what happens around your house so we can see that. Because, you know, I might show up a day afterwards and the water's gone. I didn't know what it did. So it helps out a whole lot for the public to help us out that way.
So remember, take pictures.
Take pictures.
Pictures are always
Videos,
important.
pictures, whatever you want to do. But yeah, show us what's going on.
And please remember as well that sometimes we do have what's called a 50-year storm or something like that, and the drainage is not meant to handle that immediately.
No.
As long as it doesn't get to your house and drains off, a lot of times that's what we're hoping for.
I tell a lot of people, you watch it, if you see the water flowing, you know, and everybody, I mean, we get phone calls, man, I got water in my yard, and by the time I get there, it's gone. It's because it was working. As long as it's moving, it's working. If it's not moving, we got a problem, we can find that. But as long as it's moving, and you'll see it on the news, and it scares me when they say it, but they'll tell you we got 7 inches of rain coming from Monday to Thursday. I will take that all day long. But if I get 5 inches of rain, and I'll tell you a couple of years back up here on Lockhart Road, they got 5 inches of rain in 45 minutes. Range, Magnolia Beach Road, Lockhart went underwater, Denim Drive went underwater. A lot of people, I think a couple houses did get water because of that. But 5 inches of rain, there's no drainage in this anywhere around here that can handle 5 inches of rain in 1 hour. So I don't like to hear those numbers, you know.
Sure, and it is important to understand that because a lot of people, it's tough. It's math. It's cubic feet of water that you're trying to move through a system.
Exactly.
And if you've got 5 inches in 45 minutes, that's a lot of cubic feet because you got to remember that's over a large area too.
Yes.
Well, relatively speaking.
Right. 27,000 gallons of water on an acre of land consists of 1 acre. I mean, for 1 inch. And that's just 1 acre. But you're looking at all we got. So it's really, it's neat to see it that way, but it's also scary to see it that way.
It is scary. So appreciate it, sir. If one last time, the office number and your email.
225-664-5827. And my email is Wesley, Wesley, @lpgdd1.net. And our website is www.lpgdd1.net. It does have it shows what we're doing, things coming up, and also has a map on there to kind of give you an idea of what watershed, because we got 3 watersheds and what watershed you live in and any kind of questions on that.
And it's important to go check that out, too, to see if you live in Gravity Drainage District 1. Of course,
Yes.
there is 2 and 5,
Right.
which are the other funded ones. And then, of course, there's something going on with the eastern side of the parish. That's another conversation for another time.
Yes, sir.
So we appreciate you taking the time this
I
morning.
appreciate you having me here.
Why don't you introduce yourself? just reintroduce
Oh,
yourself.
yes. Okay. My name is Wesley Kennebrew. I am the director or manager there at Gravity Drainage District 1 here in Denim Springs.
And we appreciate you taking the time. And my name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you all taking the time to listen or watch if you viewed this video. Please remember that we're on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. We are once a week in print on Thursdays at $7 a month to get that in your mailbox. And we're also online, www.livingstonparishnews.com. We do hope you have a great day, and we will see you next time.